Hello my friends, my name is Rich and welcome to Greatest Rock and Metal. On Greatest Rock and Metal I talk about what are for me the greatest rock bands, albums and gigs of all time, based on listening to thousands of albums and going to hundreds of gigs over many years. Please press the red button to subscribe to the channel to see future episodes of Greatest Rock and Metal. I would be very grateful. Thank you very much. It's very easy to do. It'll only take a few seconds of your time. Thank you. Okay, on to today. And round about now, we will be celebrating the 40th anniversary of this album, Def Leppard's High and Dry. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to take the time and look back on my thoughts on the album, and also about thoughts of a Def Leppard gig as well, not from the High and Dry tour though. So first, what was my introduction to High and Dry? Well, it came with the song Bringing on the Heartbreak / Switch 625. I used to work in a rock club called Space City in Bolton, Lancashire in the UK. And the DJ, he was responsible for introducing a lot of new bands to me. He played these tracks and it's like, oh, who's that? And I'd go and find out off him. And one day I heard this song, Bringing on the Heartbreak, and loads of girls got up and started dancing to it. And I thought, yeah, okay tune. But what really caught me about this track was it would then segue into Switch 625, an instrumental. And all of a sudden a load of lads would get on the dance floor and join the girls for this track. And I would be one of them as time went on. And this was my introduction to the High and Dry album. I'd previously heard of Def Leppard with their Rock Brigade song and their debut On Through the Night, but like many, High and Dry was a real pull more towards the band. And it was the first album that was produced by the legendary producer Mutt Lange, and he went on to produce a couple more albums for Def Leppard as well after this, Pyromania down there and Hysteria, both of which became mega selling albums. But Mutt started to mould Def Leppard into what would become the trademark Def Leppard sound with this album. It's still got the rawer qualities in there that we saw with the debut album, but we're starting to see a lot more melody and strong songwriting coming in on this album as well. It was also the last Def Leppard album to feature fully the guitar work of one of the original members, Pete Willis. Pete Willis did contribute some guitar to the next album, Pyromania, but this was pretty much his swan song with the band for a full album. Some other interesting facts about the album: it wasn't a huge success initially. Now, the debut album, On Through the Night, had sold about 250,000 copies, and this did around about the same kind of levels until Pyromania, their third album, broke in America. And then a lot of people went back and looked at the catalogue, and Bringing on the Heartbreak was actually re-released as a single well after the success of Pyromania has started to kick in. That's why if you look at one of the videos for Bringing on the Heartbreak, you'll see guitarist Phil Collin there, who didn't actually play on the album and didn't join until midway through recording of Pyromania. Some other fascinating facts about this album: the album cover itself was designed by a very well-known art company, a company called Hypnosis, who had done a lot of album covers for Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin. And legend says that this was actually a rejected album cover by Pink Floyd for their Ummagumma album, and was later picked up by Def Leppard. Another fascinating fact: singer Joe Elliott, while recording this album, was still working part-time as a builder. So shows how things change for them nowadays. Multi-millionaires and playing sold-out gigs. Just about to start a stadium tour with Motley Crue probably next year in the States. Who knows what will happen with that, but it's still planned to do so. So, what about the album itself? Well, as always, I will pick my favourite 4, and it starts with the first track on the album, Let It Go. Brilliant intro to this album. Superb riff, great vocals over a pounding bass of Sav, the bass player, and then you're into brilliant, what became the trademark Def Leppard gang vocal choruses. And this is where Joe Elliott's voice has still got its raw power. He lost that raw edge a little bit once they started to go to the hysteria. He still had power in his voice, but there's still that tinge of rawness here that sounds fantastic in a great opener, Let It Go. And that's quickly followed, third track in, by High and Dry, Saturday Night. Saturday Night, hi! Another great rocker with a brilliant opening riff again. Another raw, guitar-driven song. In fact, Pete Willis's guitar solo on this is absolutely fantastic. And a bit of a rarity because, in fact, the other guitarist, Steve Clark, played most of the solos on the album. Next track I would choose, well, it's got to be the track I mentioned earlier. It closes out side 2 of the album version, and it's the ballad Bringing on the Heartbreak, but I always link it with the instrumental Switch 625 as well. They are technically 2 separate songs, but they're on the album as one, and I always treat them as one, and that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm cheating a little bit by saying 4, because I'm going to choose this as 1. But anyway, ballad, but a ballad with balls, and a great song. Again, brilliant vocal work from Elliott here. But the real standout is when it goes into the Switch 625 instrumental. You've got the slow start, and it just, all the way through the song, it just seems to build up and up and up into a massive instrumental crescendo at the end. Written by Steve Clark, and a brilliant instrumental. I'm not usually a fan of instrumentals, but this is just fantastic. And then the 4th track I would choose is the track On Through the Night. Now, the previous album, the debut album On Through the Night, didn't actually have the On Through the Night song on it. It was thought afterwards that, wow, it's actually a great title for a song. So they decided to write a song later to fit the title, which would then appear on their 2nd album. And this is probably the heaviest track on the album for me, and it kind of still has a little bit of the style that you would find of the heavier, rawer kind of music that they had on their debut album. A little bit about this album itself. This is the vinyl reissue. I don't know if it was an anniversary one or just one that was made a few years ago. I'm not sure on the release date of it, but it's a very faithful reproduction of the original vinyl. I used to have the original vinyl. So you have inside colour insert sleeve, and then this is on red vinyl. Very nice, heavyweight vinyl as well. So really is one of the standout albums for Def Leppard. Were I to do a ranking of Leppard albums, which I will do in the future, this would be appearing well up there. So that's my thought on the 40th anniversary of this brilliant album, Def Leppard's High and Dry. Next I'm going to talk about one of the best Def Leppard concerts that I've seen. But before we do that, let's take a look at Rock T-shirts by the Sea. Okay, so let's now talk about a Def Leppard gig. And we're going to move onwards from 1981 and fast forward all the way to 2009. This was one of Leppard's iconic gigs, and it took place at the Download Festival, previously known as the Donington Monsters of Rock Festival. And it was an iconic gig because it was kind of the follow-up, and a very, very long follow-up, to their legendary appearance that had happened in 1986 at the Monsters of Rock Festival. On that particular day, it saw a return of Rick Allen to the drums to play his first major gig after his car crash where he'd lost his arm. They'd done a few warm-up gigs in Ireland, but this was the first major one that they played with Allen back on the drums. And it was a really emotional day at Donington. And surprisingly, they had not been back to the festival site since that time, until this day in June 2009, where they were the headliners on what was considered to be the classic rock day of this 3-day festival. Previously we'd seen Faith No More on the Friday headlining, Slipknot on the Saturdays headlining, and then Sunday was going to be Def Leppard. The bill was brilliant on this day, absolutely a classic rocker's wet dream, because not only was it Def Leppard headlining, but you also had ZZ Top, Whitesnake, Dream Theater, Journey and Tesla playing on the main stage that day. There was a crowd of 85,000 there to witness a really a brilliant day of classic rock. And Def Leppard as the headliners did not let the side down. They had a great set list. It was a 19-song set list. They opened with Rocket from Hysteria, what I think is a great opening track for a gig, because the way it builds up at the beginning with the introduction to the various instruments and then into the big riff, and it was quickly followed by their cover of the sweet song Action, and it was a real great 1-2 punch to start the show. Visually not as grand as some of their gigs that they're playing nowadays, but they still had the big LED screen behind them projecting all sorts of images. And really today it was about the set list. It was a good strong set list that spanned pretty much all of their career. Again, as you would expect with Def Leppard, most of the tracks, or the bulk of the tracks from one album come from Hysteria. You had 6 songs from Hysteria, but you also had a couple of tracks from their album that had been released not too long before, songs from the Sparkle Lounge, and we got 9 Lives and Come On, Come On from this album as well. One of the real highlights of the set was not just the songs, but once again, as he had done in 1986, Joe Elliott gave a real show-stopping speech about the courage of Rick Allen in the way he'd fought back from his injury to be a drummer again, and Elliott recounted that atmosphere in the festival site from 1986, and you could really feel it again on this day, as all the heartfelt warmth was given from the crowd back to the band, and specifically to Rick Allen yet again, before he started his trademark or something like that for the Rock of Ages song, the Swedish Chef, for those of you who know your Muppets. Why would you know your Muppets? Anyway, and the show eventually closed with Do You Wanna Get Rocked? Let's get rocked! And we did get rocked. It was a great show by Leppard. Really good reaction from the crowd throughout, and it was great to be there on what was a brilliant weekend of music at the Download Festival that weekend. So there you have it. That's my thoughts on Def Leppard on the 40th anniversary of the brilliant High and Dry album. Thank you very much for watching. Please press the red button to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes on Def Leppard and other future episodes on all the great rock and metal bands as well. And remember, as always, we rock!